Okay, hey there guys. So for today's war, we're up against PBT at the time of the recording, and like when I was fighting, this war was not just like closer than you'd expect, but it's definitely not the score you'd expect for when I show it at the end here, just as a little bit of a spoiler, I guess. So meant I needed to make sure I boosted pretty well, put on the 33% because I have a lot of mystics this war, so I figured I'd put on the 33% because it should be coming back up in the store pretty soon, and I've been using the 25s mostly. Put on that power start 1. I want to be able to carry this in for 2 fights here, and that's the hope. I turned on the suicides because I still think for this node with Moleman, suicides make it a lot easier because I'm able to do that and get the unstoppable, and I don't have to worry about the nodes limber pretty much. And even with the 150s, I'm going to go straight up to SP2. And by the way, this time I actually checked what his SIG ability does. If he has a taunt on you, he can block unblockable special attacks, unless it's against the skill champion. So I was always really dumb for worrying about him blocking my unblockable specials. So here you can kind of see the masteries I'm going to be rocking for the rest of the war. Put in a couple points in despair, a couple points in deep wounds. These are going to have to come off before the next war starts for the defense, because those are not my defensive masteries. I need limber and stuff on, obviously. But when I have Void and Quake, I can't use suicides with Quake because it's on the heal block node, so she just drains her health too fast in case I get hit. With Void, obviously suicides is bad because you SP1 spam, and so I end up having a lot of extra points. So I've been putting those into greater strength because both of them get a little bit of value out of base attack rating. Right there, I messed up what I'd been doing the past couple times, which is throwing my SP1 right before his prompt comes up, and that's almost going to bite me in the butt in this fight, but gonna handle it pretty well. I'm just gonna be playing it pretty aggressive because I saw what happened in that one against Jellies against Noon, so I was pretty comfortable for not like whatever happened, but just like whatever ends up happening here. Right there, I knew I still had my slow up, so I was willing to go back in, and right there, I just forgot about it still being on, and I accidentally dex, but I look up, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take the risk, and yes. The debuffs stopped the degen, so I was able to go in there, keeping my slows, keeping my debuffs. I'm not even going to get to Fear of the Void before it kills him, and that's a really, really fast Void fight with just all the debuffs, all the damage. And that's kind of why I like that greater strength, because there's not like that much else I could put it into. I could open up more points in Inequity or Resonate or something, but I don't have Resonate open at the moment. I'm really, really sorry, Fios, but we're going to ignore that, and we're going to move past that for this next epic Spider-Ham fight right here. So I'm going to put on Invul, and I want the Invul on for both of these fights. And even though this war is a pretty tough war, I've done this fight without suicides plenty of times, so I felt okay not putting suicides on for this, just because I don't want to be switching on suicides like 4 times every war. My units are just going to disappear. I had to buy the 1030% boost package middle of the season, so my units dropped down to around 1000, and as you can see, they're already at 870, so I need to make sure I have enough units for the next season for the boosts, and next season's masteries, and anything else that might happen. So not that I'm trying to like skip on units there, but I've done this fight without suicides, and it's a pretty simple fight with the Invul even without suicides. It just gives you a little bit less of your monster mass charges, but that's really fine. So all I'm going to do, I do the 2 heavies, I'm going to hold block, 4 hits, 3 hits, whatever it is, instantly throw that SP1, get the shock up. You can see I'm not doing as much, but because I have on my max cruelty and also super high in the greater strength, because again, Moleman is a champion that actually will get a fair bit out of greater strength. Any champion that gets guaranteed crits is going to like higher base attack rating, even if it's a small amount. And as you can see, 21 hits. Really quick fight, he didn't even get up to the SP3. The shocks, the burst damage from your shocks is really, really strong with Moleman. I think it's become probably a little bit of an underrated part of his kit, or at least underrated to me, because when I use him, I so often just use him to burst things down with that SP2, throw on a power start 1, and just boom, 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 and try to get out of it as quick as you can. And you guys can tell from that last Null fight that sometimes that doesn't always work, and that shock can actually be quite underrated. So this Quake fight is actually, I kind of lied, I haven't been speeding up these Quake fights, even though this is like the 5th one of the season now. I guess good luck, I don't know. But this is actually my best Quake fight of the season so far, so I wanted to like preserve it without the speed up. So in all the other Quake fights, I've made a mistake. I've done a couple parries, I've dropped a heavy, but you're going to see I'm actually really, really clean on this Quake here. I'm doing just probably getting more comfortable with Claire's animations because this is the only fight I've been quaking really, and I like practice it sometimes like on duels. So getting more comfortable with that there, and I'm not getting clipped, hopefully again. And I'm getting pretty good about when I used to Quake back in the day, when I was like early on in GT, so like a year or 2 years ago, whatever that was. Um, I had this issue where when they would end their combo or I would trigger my stuns, I would do an extra like 2 little dex backs before I would actually start to hold down my heavy, and that would really hamper my damage. But this fight, again, I was doing a pretty good job. Right there you can see my little double dex back habit, but I was able to avoid it for most of the fight, so I was really proud of that Quake fight. It was a little bit over a minute. It was like a minute 10, I think, is what I want to say. So I have 2 mini bosses this war actually, so pretty fun there. I'm going to have that regen Doom right there, and then I'm also going to have that Wong on 41, which is the root, SP2 focus, and bubble shield. So the main key for this Doom fight, first off, I just want to play this slow. It's an Ascended Doom. It's almost 300k health. It's like, let's see, how much attack is this going to be? I was trying to decide which boosts I was going to be using, and I also wanted to use my energy first, so that way I could carry that singular power start 1 through both. This was just like a just in case. This did nothing. Literally nothing, like pointless to do. But I have extra loyalty, so I figured I might as well, right? Just in case I get pushed to an SP2 or an SP3. Wanted it there. So, oh my gosh, what was I doing? I was so panicked. That fight, I just need to make sure I maintain my slows. That's the key to that fight. When he, on that node, when Unstoppable comes into play, it pushes you back, and then you get rooted, and then the bubble shield triggers, and then you dex, and then the Unstoppable triggers again, and it feeds back. So you just have to keep that slow going, and you just have to stay on top of it. But for this fight, I just want to get my debuffs up, and because once you get a Petrify up, he cannot, he doesn't get his aura, so he won't go unblockable on me, and I get it on my first debuff, so really, really happy there. But unfortunately, because this isn't a global champion, I'm not going to be stacking Withers as aggressively, so the power gain doesn't get as reversed as quickly in this fight. And I was trying to not bait his SP2, so I started baiting early and it didn't work, so I just decided I'm just going to block the whole thing. I remember what happened on the last time I fought that Doom, so I felt completely fine doing it, because this one doesn't have the extra damage. So just throwing these SP1s, just trying to keep it nice and simple. Got my second Petrify, so now you can see his power is going to go down ever so slightly. If I were to get a Fear of the Void up here pretty, like right now, which is about to happen, again, that's part of why I'm playing back. I want to bait the special, and I want to let Fear of the Void trigger in, because you can see how quickly I'm going to be gaining these debuffs. And I gained that Petrify, and now the heal reversal. Now that power reversal is going to be a pretty big effect, as you can see. And again, same when I was fighting the Rintra here, I was doing a pretty bad job about keeping his regens up, but it was just like the spacing and the rhythm of the fight. I didn't feel like I could stay that close to him. I spent too much time like baiting specials and stuff. And there's some champions I'm fine like pushing to SB3, like for against like the Rintra, maybe I put on an invul, so I just stay up next to him and I push him up to SP3, but with Doom, he gains that Fury, and then he stuns you, and if he goes in and just hits you a couple times, you're still going to get taken so much damage because of that stun. So again, as I was saying for this fight, I just want to make sure I keep that slow going. So he's a 7-star, and they have Pierce on, so he has 17,000 attack, and the Pierce, and Bubble Shield, and I was making sure it didn't say on the plan to put on Invul, so that's what that little jump was for. So I'm going to be using that Power Start 1 here still, and because originally what my first thought was I'm just going to play this super aggro and push him up to SP3s, and I was like, hold up. I can take like 1 SP3, I think. Maybe 2. I have that 33% boost on. So I'm like, I'm still going to play aggressive early on in this fight. I'd been practicing the dex a little bit for that SP2. As you can see, I do the slip out there on that one. So I'm going to take like a percent of damage there. If I don't parry, though, I take a fair bit of damage on that block. Inequity is going to save me a bunch of health, though. But as you can see, as I'm talking, like I'm just like going about the fight, and he's already at 50%, and that tick is doing 1,000 a tick. And as long as I just stay close, I'm keeping those withers up, and it's going crazy. Right there, I accidentally did an early dex. He goes unblockable, and at the same time, I get rooted. Fortunately, I had that SP1 up, so I was able to actually throw it and get myself unrooted Fear of the Void's on. I'm going to repeat the same thing as he's dashing in, throw it, get 2 unique debuffs up, so I have 3 uniques up, 1800 a tick because of the Fear of the Void, and he is just gone. Nice and clean, nice and fast fight against that Wong. That Wong, I think that Wong was the fight I was like most nervous for. Right here I have that extra energy, and I used an energy refill for it, so I am using that energy. Gosh darn it, I'm going to use that energy. That Wong, I think, was the fight I was like most nervy about this war, because I think I took it in off-season. I think I died to it, but it was off-season. I was just kind of like playing around with it, trying to like dex his SP2 to the face or something. But here's the surprise I was telling you about. It's been like this for most of the war now. It's 3-1. We gave up some early deaths, and they are keeping that pressure on us. We are under a lot of pressure right now. Now, if it comes to a tie, we're going to win. In my opinion, we're up on time drastically right now, I believe. But they have to die for that. So this is a very tight war, and they are playing absolutely incredibly. So massive ups to them. Like, this is a big war for them to come into and show that they're really competing up against these like top alliances, because I think Salty, after winning last one and how we've been playing, you would assume we'd be pretty solid, but this is a very good showing from them. Not too mad at our 3 deaths. 3 deaths isn't the worst. I think they were silly deaths, but that's what deaths are like in Masters. You don't see that many bad players up here, you know? So GG's to them either way, whatever happens. This has been a very fun war, very tense, and I really like it when wars get like this. A little bit messier is always a little bit funner. More fun. Don't use funner. More fun. Okay, thank you guys so much for coming back to watch. I hope the second week of war went well for you guys, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!